Hi everyone, this is Mark Caffarelli. I'm going to show you guys today how to use the rubric tool in Google Classroom. It just makes grading assignments a little bit easier, especially assignments that are maybe longer or more involved that would normally require the use of a rubric. So maybe not necessarily like a quick discussion post or something quick for the kids to do, but something more long-term like a bigger writing assignment. So I have an example class pulled up. So if we go into the classwork tab, I have already created it, but I'm going to walk you through the steps so it looks exactly like this. So when we're doing an assignment that uses a rubric, we're going to go into the classwork tab and click create. And here you have a bunch of different options, but for the purposes of this video, let's click into assignment. Now, obviously, you can name your assignment however you'd like. So let's just call it example writing assignment. And then, of course, you can give your students a set of instructions. So let's say, here is your first writing assignment for this class. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of other features here besides the rubric tool, which I will just go over just so that we're all on the same page. So this add function, it allows you to add pretty much anything to an assignment. So it's really convenient. You can add in a YouTube clip to an assignment if you want. You can add files like PDF files or other static files to your post if you want your kids to sort of read something that goes along with their assignment. You can include links to other websites, and of course you can include links to things that you would find in your own Google Drive. And then similarly, there's a create button, which I don't really use all that often. This create button will just allow you to create a document that would then just be linked to this assignment. So you could create your assignment in docs if you'd like, or slides, etc., etc. But typically, I found that I usually make the assignment beforehand, and then I'll just link it to this assignment. So for example, let's say we add in a YouTube clip, maybe, and in this video function, there's actually two things you can do. You can search for a video using this embedded YouTube function right here, or you can, if you already have a YouTube URL available, you can just paste it in here. So let's search for a video. How about how to write a persuasive essay? Okay, and I've got some options. Let's just pull up this first one, click on it, and then I'll click add. And now this YouTube video is linked to this assignment now. Let's also say that we want to attach maybe a file that goes with this assignment. So it automatically brings up your Google Drive by default. But if you want, you can upload your own file from your computer using this upload tab, and then you just click browse. Let's say that we want to pull up something from our drive. So maybe let's do, I think I pulled up persuasive essay structure. Yep. Insert. And then you just want to be mindful of what view capabilities your students will have. So you either want to have it be students can view file, can edit file, or make a copy for each student. Typically, I would say I never really use the second one, student can edit the file, because that would mean that they can edit directly the file that is found in your drive. So I typically don't use that. For something like this, where you just want them to be able to look at this document and you don't really need them to do anything with it, I would just say leave this as students can view file. Okay. And then the last thing that I would do with this assignment is obviously you want them to be writing something and you want to be able to see their work. So if you click this add, and then I'll go back to my Google Drive, and I made this before I started this video. Let's use this essay template, okay, for this assignment. Now we have to be careful here because we don't want students to just be able to view the file. we want to actually make a copy for each student. So that means that once I assign this in Google Classroom, each student's going to get their own copy of this assignment, which then they can edit on their own. So it's kind of a cool function in Google Classroom, and we'll see how that works in a little bit. Assuming most of you guys are kind of familiar with this setup, but if not, maybe I'll make some more videos going forward that sort of goes into this a little bit more in depth. But for now, all you need to know really is that this essay template, it's going to duplicate itself for however many students you have, as long as you click make a copy for each student. Okay, and then on the right-hand side, you have some more information. You can post this to multiple classes if you want. So for here, I have 2 example classes. Let's say that I only want to post this to one of my classes. I would obviously just leave that checked. But if you have multiple sections of each class, you could, of course, check off more than one class. And then you could even further segment it by students if you want. This might be useful if you have some sort of differentiation strategies that you want to maybe assign a slightly different assignment for a certain group of students, or you can just leave it checked off to all students. Points, this just helps you keep track of how many points were assigned for this assignment. For now, I'm going to change this to 6 actually, and we'll see why in just a minute. For the due date, you can, of course, make it any due date you want. Let's say that it's due a week from today. You can even have a time that it's due. And then this topic function, this one's actually pretty neat. You can actually make categories within each of your classrooms. So it's a great organization technique. And honestly, the sooner that you would start this, the better, because if you have a year's worth of assignments that are not categorized, by the end of the school year, everything's kind of just not categorized, so the organization's a little bit harder. But for this, let's just assume that we want to create a new topic for this assignment. Let's say that this is Unit 2. Now, going forward, anything that might be related to this sort of assignment or this topic or this unit, I can bring up with Unit 2. And you'll see that once you type in a topic, it's then available for future use. So I had already created a Unit 1 topic, so that's why it pops up. I had not created Unit 2 yet, so that's why it is not there by default. So let's say that we want this to be Unit 2. Perfect. So this assignment's looking pretty good so far. The last thing that we want to do here, and which was really the main purpose of this video, is to show you guys how to use rubrics. So you'll notice at the very bottom there's this rubric link, and there's this button right here. So if we click on this button, you have a couple of options. You have create rubric, reuse rubric, and import from sheets. Now, these all do very different things. Create rubric, I found, is the best way to sort of start yourself off. Reuse rubric is great once you already have a rubric created. And importing a rubric from sheets is a little bit trickier, which I'm not really going to go into depth in this video. But if you're interested, please definitely reach out and I can show you guys how to do that. But for the purposes of this video, let's do create rubric. And now it will sort of bring up this new screen, which looks a little bit overwhelming at first, but I'm going to walk you guys through how to use it exactly. Okay, so in this screen, you'll see a bunch of different options, and I'm just going to walk through each one because it can be a little bit confusing at first. So right off the bat, you'll see this use scoring function. You do want to keep it turned on, especially if you're keeping track of points in Google Classroom. If you turn it off, it's not going to auto grade for you. So I recommend keeping this use scoring set to on. You can change the order of the points by descending or ascending, but that really only impacts how it's viewed visually, which we'll see in just a minute. So right off the bat, we can see we have a different different fields for different options. So the first thing is criterion title, and then we have description, points required, level title, and description of the level. So it can seem a little bit confusing at first, but I think it's going to make sense, hopefully once I explain it. So each criterion you want to think of as its own like section in a rubric. So I've made an example rubric that is super basic that might go along with a sort of writing assignment. So let's say that your rubric has two categories: the overall quality of the writing and whether or not students used sources appropriately. Okay, of course, like this is a super simple version of a rubric, but I just want to use this to show you guys how to do the rubric function in Google Classroom. So these are our two criterions. So this would be like criterion number 1, and this one would be criterion number 2. And then, of course, we have different segments of each of the criterions. So you can either exceed expectations in both of the criterions, you can approach expectations, or you can be below expectations. And let's just say that for this rubric, we want to assign 3 points in the exceeds expectations category, 2 points in the approaches expectations category, and 1 point if it's below expectations. Okay, of course, across both of these criterions. So if I were to be using this rubric, if the student got exceeds expectations, so 3 points for writing quality, and exceeds expectations for sources, another 3 points, they could get a maximum of 6 points. Okay, so this is our example rubric. Now we want to sort of translate this rubric into the Google Classroom post. So the criterion title is simply just the category. So writing quality, I'm just going to copy that. Now, if you want, you can add your own description to each of these criterions. Let's say you had like an overarching description for this category. You might want to type that in here, or you can type in descriptions for each of the categories at each of the levels, which I find is a little bit more straightforward for the students to understand, but it's really up to you how you want to do that. So this would just be, you know, this criterion is for the overall quality of the student's writing. Okay, but that being said, you don't need to write a description here. Now, of course, the next thing that goes along with this rubric is assigning points and for each of the levels. So you can have as many levels as you want for each category. I mean, for example, you could even have a level of 0. You could even do something above exceeds expectations, maybe 4 points, something like that. Of course, you can make the point values whatever you think is appropriate. This is just a super simple example. So my highest level would be exceeds expectations. So I've assigned exceeds expectations to be 3 points. The level title is exceeds expectations. And in this description field is where I would put, for writing quality, my description. So essay is free from spelling and grammar mistakes. That would go here. Okay. Now, we've only so far done one level for this first category of writing quality. We actually need 2 more levels. So to do that, you can just click this plus button. You'll see it says add a level. And of course, we need 2 more levels because we have 2 other levels for this category. Okay, so you'll notice that my fields just got readjusted. So to make it look like it did before, I think if we do, if we make this one exceeds expectations, I'm just going to flip it around so it looks the same as mine, so it's not confusing. So I have exceeds expectations, 3 points. That's the description. My next level is worth 2 points, and my lowest level is worth 1 point. My second level, the one that's worth 2 points, says essay has few grammar mistakes. Okay. And this one was, I believe, approaches expectations. All right, and I'm just copying and pasting in. My last one was worth 1 point. The level title is below expectations. And this description says, essay has many grammar mistakes which distract from the author's writing. Okay, looks good. So we filled out all of the levels that I want for this criterion of writing quality. However, we have only done this criterion. We need to do the second criterion as well, which is all about sources. So to do that, you have to click on this button at the bottom that says add a criterion. Okay, and now we just need to do exactly the same thing. So the criterion title was sources. Okay. I have the same levels, which is really great. I mean, obviously in any kind of rubric, hopefully your levels will be the same across each of your categories. So for this one, I still have exceeds expectations, approaches expectations, and below expectations. So I still have 3 levels. So I'm going to add 2 more. 1, 2. And here in the criterion description, I could write this category assesses how students used sources in their writing. And I have the same points as before. It was 3, 2, and 1. And it was the same levels as before, exceeds expectations, approaches expectations, and below expectations. And then, of course, descriptions for each of them. We want to take the description from the sources lines. At least 3 sources were used. Only 1 to 2 sources used. No sources used. Now, of course, you can make this as detailed as you want. Like I've said before, this is really just an example to show you guys how to use it. Okay, so I have 2 criterions. I have writing quality with 3 levels, and I have sources with 3 levels. So it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to click save. Now, you'll notice that this rubric is now visible here, and it says the rubric has 2 criteria for a total of 6 points. Okay, which is why I made the assignment worth 6 points before. Now, once you click assign, and remember, you can actually schedule this. You can save it as a draft. You can discard the draft if you want. I found that schedule was especially useful during the closure because you could sort of tee up assignments and they would sort of post on their own, which was really helpful. But let's say we want to assign it right now. Click assign. All right, and it looks like it created a new heading for my new Unit 2 section, which is great. It posted in my stream, which is also great. Now, if we actually click into this assignment, you'll see everything that you did. So you have the title of the assignment, you have the description here, you have how many people, how many students it was assigned to, how many students have turned it in, and then each of the items that you posted along with it. So you have the rubric, you have the video, this PDF file, and the essay template that got duplicated for each student. If we actually click view this assignment, so this student, when you click on any student in this assignment, a really cool feature of using the embedded rubrics in Google Classroom is that you can actually see the rubric right in the assignment and sort of grade as you go. And this is actually even cooler if you click into each student's assignment. So let's say I click into the student's assignment. let's just say for the purposes of this assignment that both the writing quality and the sources used were perfect. You'll actually see on the right-hand side when I'm hopefully you guys have seen this right-hand side before, where you see the student's name, grade, common fields, etc. But now you see that on the right-hand side, you actually have this rubrics section, which is super helpful. So you'll see the writing quality is out of 3, and the sources are also out of 3 for a total of 6 points. You can actually even expand each of these sections and review what you originally listed as each of those levels. So for writing quality, exceeds expectations, we put in a description of essay is free from spelling and grammar mistakes. So let's say that as I'm reading through this, oh yeah, it looks like this student actually did exceed expectations. If I click on this, it's actually going to update all of the grades, which I think is super awesome and really helpful for grading. So it's already updated the rubric grade. It's even updated the overall grade. Okay, so we're reading through it. Let's say, for example, the student used at least 3 sources. Actually, for this case, let's say he or she only used 1 to 2 sources. Okay, so they got 2 out of 3 on sources for an overall grade of 5 out of 6. So this will actually auto grade everything for you. You can even add a private comment if you want. Nice job on this assignment. The grade updated, and you can return it to your student. So hopefully this video was helpful for how to use rubrics in Google Classroom. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. It can be a little bit complicated at first to set up, so if anyone needs any help doing that, I am happy to help you guys one-on-one. Okay? Hope everyone's doing great. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.